Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, to our series, In the Light of Islam. As you know, in this series we are looking at various questions which people have written into us, and are trying to answer them to give some clarification about issues concerning the religion for our viewers around the world. In this session, I'd like to inform those who have sent in certain letters which they wanted personal answers. I received one from Sharjah just recently, and we will try to get an answer out to them. They didn't want it read on the program, so we won't do so. The first letter I would like to look at in this segment of the program is a letter which we received from Egypt. Alhamdulillah, our program is going all over the world, and we have also letters from Algeria, from France, a variety of other parts of the world, including Gambia and England. At any rate, our first letter, which is from Ala Khalil Hafiz, who was writing from Cairo, Egypt. It's a bit of a long letter, but the idea, I would like to read it so that we can hear really the concepts which are behind this particular request, this particular letter. Dear Dr. Bilal Phillips, I want to say how impressed I am with your program. I feel fortunate to have had the opportunity to listen to, and more importantly, learn from your wealth of experience and expertise. May Allah accept your good thoughts, and pray that we deserve your very generous words. I have a question, and please be honest with me, because it is related to me and my identity as a person seeking the truth. The subject is homosexuality. Is it the genetic destiny of God? Does God have destiny that there will be males seeking other males and women seeking other women in this world? If the answer is yes, so why then the Quran said that homosexuals should be sent to a hill and killed? Does the Quran intend to give a religious lesson and not a science lesson? Research now seems to indicate that one is born with his or her orientation rather than choosing it later in life. As for changing orientation, there is no scientific evidence that it is possible. Most, if not all people, would not choose to change their orientation to gay in a society that makes them fight for respect and equal rights. Some men who have tried to change their orientation from gay to straight later give up and appear to have merely forced their natural homosexual drive into a heterosexual outlet. Now, people insist that if the Quran says something, such as homosexual acts are forbidden, then it's wrong. No arguments. A thing is wrong for a reason. If the reason no longer holds and no other reason is given, how can the thing still be judged wrong? Please answer for me, as there's much conflict between the Quran, what the Quran says, and what scientific evidence seems to say, especially on this subject. I feel as a person that gay is genetic, and there is no blame on gay people. There is no doubt that religion plays an important role in our lives, so please, Dr. Bilal, put me on the right track. Why is there such a conflict which gives me such a hard time? Okay, the basic idea which our writer has put in here is the concept of homosexuality being something genetic. That, as he says, he feels, from what scientific evidence seems to be showing, that it is in fact genetic. However, and added to that is the concept that if it is in fact genetic, then why would the Quran punish the homosexual with death. Actually, it's not mentioned in the Quran, to be honest. It's not mentioned in the Quran that that individual should be executed in any particular way. It's not mentioned specifically. It says that they should be confined to their homes until, Allah shows another way. This was the initial regulation with regards to any form of corruption, which included adultery, fornication, etc. But it was the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings upon him, who instructed, how to deal with this particular case. It also deals with bestiality, and other similar crimes. That punishments, of death were to be meted out for those who committed both adultery, that is also not mentioned in the Quran, homosexuality, as well as those committing bestiality, that is having sexual relations with animals. Now, our writer's question is that if, as science seems to indicate, that this is in fact genetic, then perhaps the instruction of its being prohibited in the Quran was something for a particular period of time, and if we can't give any kind of logical reason today why it should be forbidden, then we shouldn't hold that it is wrong. I mean, this addresses a number of fundamental issues. First and foremost, the issue of right and wrong, and whether it is changeable with time. Certain fundamental acts which have been judged wrong by Islam, by the Quran, and by the Sunnah, the explanations of the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. We believe fundamentally, as Muslims, that these can never be changed. These are absolute truths. They may be suspended for a period of time because of particular circumstances, or in exceptional cases, people may be excused, but the law stands until the last day, because human beings were not any different 1,400 years ago when the Quran was revealed, and the corruption of homosexuality spoken about in the time of Lot was thousands of years even before that, when God spoke about it and that he destroyed the city of Lot because of this practice. This was even thousands of years before. And those from the time of Lot, Prophet Lot, may God's peace be upon him, to the time of Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace be upon him, perhaps is a much longer distance, longer period of time than even between the time of Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and our times. And, human beings are human beings. 1,000 years, their nature has not changed. So the issue of homosexuality, which is the question that comes up here now is it a question of choice, or is it a question of genetic makeup, the gene, meaning we are obliged to do this, we have no choice in the matter, is this really fact? Well, there's an article which appeared in a magazine called The Guide, the October 1995 issue. The title of the article was Gene Scam. It stated, in part, the media seized upon a study suggesting the existence of a gay gene. Now that it is unraveling, mum's the word. 2 years ago, Dr. Dean Hamer, a researcher at the National Cancer Institute, announced evidence that homosexual orientation may be genetically transmitted to males on the X chromosome, which they get from their mothers. It was, Hamer wrote, the first concrete evidence that gay genes really do exist. 2 years later, neither that evidence nor its proponent are faring well. Hamer's findings, published in the prestigious journal Science, set off an explosion of media attention. Up to then, Hamer had led a colorless career as a government scientist. On the wings of his provocative study, however, the 45-year-old researcher penned his memoirs and flew into the political fray. He gave expert testimony to the Colorado Supreme Court that formed the basis of the victorious decision, striking down anti-gay proposition number 2. Hamer used his research to bolster the assertion that gay males, at least no one has claimed to find a lesbian gene, desire civil rights because they have no choice over their sexual orientation. It's just like, as the inevitable comparison goes, black people who have no choice over their skin color. While coy in his memoir about his own sexuality, in lectures, Hamer has acknowledged that he is gay and values his research because he believes that it shows homosexuality to be just another natural variation. But with hardly anyone noticing, Hamer's claims have unraveled. A replication of his study at the University of Western Ontario, Canada, failed to find any linkage whatsoever between the X chromosome and sexual orientation. And in a follow-up on which Hamer himself collaborated, a linkage was again found, but it was so statistically insignificant that one of the authors acknowledged that had this study come first, it would never have been published. In March, due to his sickness, so says Hamer, he canceled his participation in a symposium at Cold Spring Harbor, New York, to discuss the differences in findings of researchers at Western Ontario. Hamer's original study looked at 40 pairs of brothers, all of whom were identified as gay. He queried the brothers about homosexuality among the relatives and found a preponderance of gay family members on the mother's side. Thus Hamer decided to look at each brother's pairs of X chromosomes, the ones from the mother, for any areas they shared in common to a greater degree than would be expected by chance. He found such an area at a spot near the end of the X chromosome. 33 of the 40 pairs of gay brothers shared this area, and this Hamer concluded